I started out with rough cut lumber for this project. I chose poplar just because it's a little more affordable. After milling it down and getting down to 3/4 thick on all of the pieces, I went through and trued them up and cut them to 5 inches wide for my final width. And after they were cut down to width, I went through and trued up one end, squared one end up, and cut them to the final length in the measurement. The sides and the couple angle pieces on the bottom have to be cut on 45 degrees. There's a shelf that's going to go on this as well. Now it will be the bottom shelf, and it will also be 45. I'll just cut them later on. I found it easier, being as my saw will accommodate this type of cut, just to stand it up on its side and cut the 45 that way. After my pieces were cut, I went through and cut some dados into the top of the sides. The sides will be actually 2 pieces on each side. So the top piece on each side, I went and cut a dado end with my dado stack, just to accept the shells. That way they had a little more strength in them. After the dados were cut, I went through and got that measurement for the 2 shelves and went ahead and cut them as well. After all the pieces were cut, I went through and cut a dado for the back to slide into. At this point, I'd already taken my dado stack out of my saw. Now, if I hadn't, all I would have to have done was adjust the actual stack itself down to 1/4. And since I had already done it, I just had to cut multiple passes and just adjust my fence on each pass. After the dados were cut, I went through And all my shelves, I went through and cut them down to 4 inches. That way they set in front of that groove for the back panel. I went through and drew out how my back panel needed to be and traced it on this plywood, and I'm cutting it for my back. Now this back panel is going to end up looking like home plate on a baseball field. I used my fence to help cut it down to size, but with these angle cuts, I went through and very slowly and very meticulously cut them freehand, and they actually turned out really well. The 2 shelves I marked center and measured them out where they're evenly spaced and cut 3/4 holes, not all the way through, but about 1/2 inch through, for the dowels that's going to basically keep the rings from sliding off and keep them evenly spaced. I usually cut the dowels on my bandsaw, but my blade had broke and the new one hadn't come in yet. But you watch right here, I make a huge mistake. Right there. There it is. So, it's just something to learn, and if you watch, it will happen again. Just something to learn. Always, there you go, ahead and hit the door and hit the floor. If you watch what you're doing, you'll be very safe. I took my push stick off a little too soon, and the dowel rolled back into the blade, which just kicked it on all the way to the door. Almost hit me a couple times. Scared the daylights out of me, I'll be honest with you. After all the dowels were cut, I went through and sanded them up a little bit, and using glue, I tried with a rubber mallet, but that ends up leaving like some black marks on the wood, and I didn't like that at all. So I ended up getting my wood mallet here in a minute. But I went through and put all these dowels in these grooves or in these holes to let them start drying before I put the whole thing together. Now I went through also and measured, there you go, just to make sure that they were roughly the same depth. I didn't want them to be all the way sunk in, then the other not go, and like not noticeable that it didn't go. But I made sure they went and looked good in the process. then it was time to put it together. So I started with just glue and brad nails for the top. You got the 2 dados for the shells, and then that bottom shelf I had to go through and get a good measurement of where it was going to sit before I made it and put it in. While this shelf was drying, I went through and made a piece to hang it with. And you see now I'm got my router set up and putting a keyhole slot in so they can hang it from on the wall. Using glue and brad nails, I connected this piece with the keyhole slots to the actual shelf itself. Now, I made sure to keep it above where that groove is for the back panel. I didn't want it to interfere with it at all. then the bottom shelf, I'm using glue and brad nails for it as well. I cut both angles on 45, and it just sets down in there. Make sure it was square to the shelf above it, and brad nailed it in. And there it is. This is a baseball ring holder with a shelf for a game ball. This is the actual size of a home plate, which makes it a little more special. Now, this plywood here will slide into the groove that we cut, but this is getting stained one color, and this is getting painted with the child's name on it, painted on it. So I didn't put it together just yet, but this is something very special for this child that can go with them wherever they go. Like, hey, here's my accomplishments I've made in baseball as a kid, on through their adult or young adult years, I guess you'd say. But like this video, you want to see more, give me a like, subscribe. Any questions, comments, I'll read them all. So go ahead and put them down there. And y'all have a good one. God bless.